Okay, why so many people feel something isn't right, but can't explain it? I want to start by talking about something a lot of people experience, but don't usually say out loud. It's that quiet feeling that something isn't right. And not with God, not necessarily with the Bible, but with how Christianity is often taught, explained, or enforced. A lot of people carry that feeling for years. They sit in churches, they listen to sermons, they hear confident answers, and yet something inside them doesn't settle. For some people, it shows up as confusion. For others, frustration. For some, it turns into guilt, because they were taught that feeling this way must mean something's wrong with them. So they push it down. They tell themselves, I just need more faith, or I shouldn't question this. Or maybe I'm being proud. But that explanation never really fixes the feeling. What's important to say right away is this. That sense of tension doesn't automatically mean you're rejecting God. And it doesn't automatically mean you lack faith. Very often, it means you're noticing a difference between what the Bible actually says and how things are often explained or practiced. That difference matters. A lot of people assume that if something feels off, the only options are accept it without understanding, or walk away completely. But those aren't the only two options. There's a third option that often gets ignored. Examine it. The Bible itself never treats examination as rebellion. In fact, it assumes people will examine what they're taught. It assumes people will listen, think, and compare and weigh things carefully. Faith in Scripture is not described as blind acceptance. It's described as trust that comes from hearing, understanding, and recognizing truth. That's very different from being told, don't question this, just accept it. Here's something I want to be very clear about. Questioning how something is taught is not the same as rejecting God. Those two things get confused all the time, but they're not the same. You can trust God and still question human explanations. You can value Scripture and still feel uneasy about traditions. You can believe and still notice inconsistency. That doesn't make you disloyal. It makes you attentive. A lot of people feel tension because they were taught ideas as absolute truth without ever being shown where they actually come from. They're told, this is what Christianity teaches. This is what believers must accept. This has always been believed. But when they try to trace those claims back to the Bible, things get fuzzy. And when questions come up, the response is often, just trust the church. Just trust the tradition. This is too deep for you. That kind of response doesn't build faith. It builds silence. And silence is dangerous. Not because questions are bad, but because unanswered questions don't disappear. They just sit there. They grow. And eventually, many people don't reject God. They reject what they were told God is like. That's an important distinction. one of the biggest problems is that God, Scripture, and religious systems often get blended together as if they're the same thing. They're not. God is not the same thing as an institution. Scripture is not the same thing as tradition. Jesus is not the same thing as later religious structures. When those things get merged, it becomes very hard to talk honestly, because questioning one feels like questioning all of them. But Scripture itself never asks for that kind of confusion. It consistently points people back to what is written, what is true, what can be examined. Truth in the Bible is not presented as fragile. It's presented as something that can stand in the open. If you've ever felt like you weren't allowed to ask certain questions, you were made to feel guilty for thinking, you were told that clarity equals pride, that pressure did not come from Scripture. It came from people. That matters. This channel exists because a lot of people sense that difference, but don't know how to talk about it. They know something's off. They just don't know what or why. And instead of being given space to examine, they're given labels. That doesn't lead to truth. Here's the simple idea I want to leave with you today. If something feels off, the honest response isn't to suppress it. It's to examine it carefully. Not with anger, not with fear, not with assumptions, but with patience, evidence, and honesty. That's what we're going to do here. We're going to look at Scripture. We're going to look at history. We're going to look at sources, not to tear anything down, not to attack anyone, but to bring things into the light and let them be seen clearly. If you felt this tension but couldn't explain it, you're not alone. You're not broken. You're paying attention. Take your time. Think carefully. And don't be afraid to examine what you're taught. Truth does not fear examination.